Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tammy Patzer.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, four-time published author and motivational speaker, Wynne Kelly Charles. Born with cerebral palsy, Wynne Charles has defied the odds by becoming an author. Her memoir, I, Wynne, is an amazing story of how she remembers her life through the years of having a condition called CP. Competing in the Kona IRONMAN Triathlon, Wynne Charles truly is an inspiration to many. Today, Wynne is planning on touring the country and speaking at schools and institutions to raise awareness about cerebral palsy. She is also an advocate for veterans across the world. Welcome, Wynne Charles.
Thank you again, Tam, for having me on. And I know the last time we talked, I gave podcasting tips. Well, this interview is going to be a little bit different because we are going to do a deep dive on my story, and I'm hoping that, Tam, you will transcribe it into your next book, which I'm going to give you a plug for, called the Women Innovators book. And I'm so honored to be one of the 5 women in that book. And that book, as soon as it's ready, will be found on Amazon. And what I wanted to come on here and tell you guys about is that cerebral palsy can't get worse, it can't get better, because cerebral palsy is a lack of oxygen at birth childhood disease. And so how kids acquire cerebral palsy is they have traumatic birth and lack of oxygen. As a result, cerebral palsy occurs because of lack of oxygen to the brain. So a lot of people think, well, can cerebral palsy get worse? Can cerebral palsy get better over time? And the answer to that is no. Cerebral palsy can't get worse. It can't get better. But it can get worse if you don't stay on top of it.
So, since I don't know anything about cerebral palsy, so it happens during the birthing process where somehow along the way you didn't get enough oxygen to your brain and it did some damage. So,
yes.
And obviously it would probably depend on how much oxygen you were deprived of on how much damage it actually does to a person.
Correct, because I know people that have heavy speech impediments but can walk perfectly fine. I also know people that are wheelchair-bound completely, and the individual who's wheelchair-bound completely that I have in my personal life, he was born completely able-bodied and normal, and at age 2, he choked on a piece of popcorn and then aspirated on a piece of popcorn.
Oh, okay. So that actually created the problem. So then CP could happen after birth if you have a oxygen problem?
Yes, CP can happen after birth if you have oxygen deprivation.
Okay, so you've been living with this your entire life. So I imagine you've gone through everything. I imagine you've gone through the bullying to having to prove yourself in many situations or being treated differently. How would you say of because you are an inspiration. So instead of looking at it as an issue, how has CP actually helped you in your life?
I love the way you put that. And as I mentioned in my book, I Come a Win, I was never bullied a day in my life. Now, I know several people in the disabled population have been bullied for their disability. And so I was super lucky not to be bullied in my life. And so how have I used CP as an advantage? Well, one, I have used my skills to teach others about CP. My original background was in teaching. I got my group leadership certificate in early childhood education and have been teaching young kids since 2006. It's now 2016, and I will be slowly but surely walking away from the education field and slowly but surely getting a degree in journalism, and which I'm working on right now. But how I'm going to use that degree is not only do the journalistic thing, but use it as to teach people about disabilities, not only cerebral palsy, but disabilities in general. Because when you mention cancer as compared to cerebral palsy, people don't get it. They get the concept of cancer, but they don't get the concept of cerebral palsy awareness.
So in your adventures, you wrote, I, win, and I just love that because obviously I win is the perfect title for an inspirational person. So when you go, for example, right now you are still teaching children. Am I correct?
Yes, I'm still after all these years of after being a student in the special ed system and being now a teacher and dealing with able-bodied kids and physically disabled kids. Yes, I'm still teaching after all these years.
So your goal, and I really want everyone to listen to the goal. Your goal is to go and tour the country or the world, speaking at schools, institutions, colleges, universities, wherever, about the awareness about cerebral palsy. What is the biggest misconception about CP?
The biggest misconception about CP, and unfortunately people with CP judge other people with CP with this big misconception. The biggest misconception is we're not the brightest light bulbs in the box.
Oops, when you went dead there for a minute, but I'm waiting to see if you come back.
I can still hear you.
Okay, good. You just said, I thought it was kind of funny because right when you said we're not the misconception is we're not the brightest light bulbs in the box, and that's a misconception, and people get that impression because of your speech patterns, right?
Because of people with cerebral palsy do have speech impediments, and some people with cerebral palsy have heavier speech impediments than others. I know people that speak perfectly fine. I know people that I have to lip read. My BFF, who I have known for 15 years, who also wrote a book, who I can give you that link so you can stick it in my show notes. and her story is completely different than mine. And every time I'm with her, I have to lip read her because even though I'm a BFF and I can truly understand her, I still have trouble understanding her because of her heavy speech impediment. And until I read the chapter in her book, I didn't realize how this young woman got CP. She got CP by the umbilical cord being wrapped around her neck at birth. But she didn't tell me that until I actually read the manuscript of the book.
Okay, so and that it's interesting you say that because my daughter had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, and they actually undid it very quickly. But that could have very well happened to my own child because that is common. That is very common.
Very common, and that's what causes CP. If an umbilical cord is wrapped around neck, or if aspiration happens, like choking on a piece of popcorn, that causes cerebral palsy.
Wow. So I have a question, and I'm going to move you forward in your life because you've done something that many people can only fantasize or dream about, but you did it. You competed in the Kona IRONMAN Triathlon. So explain, number one, why would you have such high aspirations, and how did you do it with CP?
Well, one, my teammate got me to do it. I didn't do it on my own. My teammate said, for about a month, and she kept calling me and said, I have a surprise for you, I have a surprise for you, I have a surprise for you. And finally, she dropped the bomb. And I'm like, I remember saying to my teammate, who happens to be my cousin, I said to her, you're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. She, at this time, was an average triathlete herself, and she is and was a completely able-bodied woman. And I almost dropped the headset of the phone when she said, I want you to be a triathlete with me. And so how we managed to do that is I trained like every single triathlete would, and I managed to build up my strength. And then she would pull me in a boat, and that's how we did the open water swim. How we did the biking is she would put me on the back of her bike and pull the bike with her own body weight, and then I would pedal and do the bike portion. And how we were going to do the run part in the Kona IRONMAN is she would put me in the wheelchair and run pushing the wheelchair.
Wow. And getting into the Ironman, you had to actually apply for that, right?
We applied through a Kona inspired project that they were doing, and of course, due to my fan base and due to my family and friends, every day they had to vote on their favorite video. Of course, my fan base was sending out emails saying, please vote for Team We Win, please vote for Team We Win. And we got it. We got the one of the 5 spots, I believe. And unfortunately, they don't have the Kona inspired projects anymore to do the Kona Triathlon. But a lot of people had cancer and brain tumors, and I was the only one with a physical disability.
Wow. So one of the reasons that you did that Kona Ironman was you had a vision of helping to educate not only the public but the medical community about CP and what needed to be done. Can you talk a little bit more about what needs to happen in the world so that people with CP get better services and more help?
Well, okay. Now you got me on my soapbox.
Okay.
Now you got me on my soapbox, which I'll try and keep short here. And so what I think people need to understand is doctors need to be diagnosing CP from day one. I'm very, very, very lucky that my doctors and nurses diagnosed me with CP 24 hours after I was born. So basically, they diagnosed me with CP on June 23rd, 1987. And by June 24th, I had brain bleed on top of having CP, and I swear without that brain bleed, I would have less severe cerebral palsy than I do. But now I'm noticing that CP is getting diagnosed later and later, like at age 2 and age 3, and the doctors are giving misdiagnosis all the time. And I am also fairly lucky that I have the third-ranked children's hospital 4 hours away from me, ranked by U.S. News and World Report. That Children's Hospital is in Denver, Colorado. So I am lucky that I was being diagnosed at one of the top children's hospitals in the country. But as I said, I think doctors need a little bit more training on what cerebral palsy really is, because cerebral palsy is completely different in the medical textbook than it is actually in real life.
And of course, only people with CP really know what it's like. And so doctors need to talk to people like you who can say, well, this is how it feels. This is what it does to me.
Yeah.
This is how it's been my entire life, because you can actually document your entire life up to this point, and that's fascinating to me, because I think you hit the nail on the head. The medical community, they need more education. They need to be trained. They need to catch these things, within hours of birth, so they can start to work on how to make it so that person has a better life as they get older. And then, of course, to be honest with you, I didn't know that it could happen later. I thought that it was a birth type thing, but then you told me about your friend who choked on the popcorn, and that was something I just learned today. So the fact that we're here talking in an educational way, I think, is really important, because I'm sure there are people out there who they may know someone, or maybe there's someone who's pregnant, and they just need to understand some of the things that can happen in what would be considered a normal birth. The cord being wrapped around a baby's neck, and doctors have to be on top of that. They need to get that cord off of the neck quickly. And sometimes that's why we live in an anti-cesarean section society now, and sometimes that's like a baby's heart. Well, they'll know it's distressed, and sometimes that's what the issue is, and that's why they will do an emergency cesarean because of that, and that could actually save your child from having the complications. Because if you think about it, as the baby comes through the birth canal, if they have the cord wrapped around their neck, it just gets tighter. I mean, it's just kind of a logical thing. So I know that you have some you're going to a workout in a few minutes, and you said that was part of what you do to stay healthy. Tell me a little bit more about exercise and what you do every day or in your life to move forward as an athlete. And you're also an artist.
I am. I actually, my art is still floating around. I actually don't do my art anymore. I've transferred in to slowly but surely teaching people about cerebral palsy, but my art is still floating around online. I actually need to get back into it. People have asked me several times, what happened to your artwork? What happened to your artwork? But to get to your point, when I mentioned earlier, if you let cerebral palsy get on top of you and don't maintain cerebral palsy, that's why I work out on a daily basis. And I think one of the greatest inventions in the world is these Fitbits and Apple Watches. I mean, they can track your steps, they can track your sleeping patterns, they can track everything that you know about. They can even track how much water you drink. And so I try and work out 3 days a week. I am the only person in the country using robotic technology to help me walk. And because I'm on a walker, that robotic technology is wonderful. And then I do Pilates once a week, which after this interview, I'm going to my Pilates, and Pilates has shown that doing Pilates actually makes you taller and actually makes you feel better. And I've been doing Pilates for months, and I have seen significant results in my strength and me being able to stand taller. And so I think all disabled should work out. I also think able-bodied people should integrate the disabled in their gyms, which I was on the cutting edge of that too at age 16, being integrated into an able-bodied gym, and that saved my life, because not only was I disabled, but I was put to a higher standards, even though the personal trainers adapted it for me and my capability levels.
Well, I think you just said something really important, and it really doesn't matter if you're able-bodied or disabled. Exercise, good nutrition, healthy mental activities, and staying on top of things and being creative are all really healthy things to do. And I know you're about ready to run out the door or walk out the door, or I don't know exactly, but yeah. I know that this has really been a really inspiring conversation, Wynn. And before I let you go, tell us now, where can we find out more about you and your services and your books?
Well, you can find my books on Amazon. You can find me on Twitter under Wynn Kelly, Kelly, Charles, all one word, no spaces, and of course the @ And then you can also find my podcast in iTunes, and I have now, actually my podcast host did it. We teamed up with iHeartRadio. So for those of you who are on iHeartRadio, just type in Butterflies of Wisdom, and you guys can help by sharing that out and also sharing Tam's podcast out. And just be aware that all these podcasters need your help, because we're doing this all on our own.
Okay, so everyone, did you just hear that? Please, when you enjoy a podcast like Women Innovators, Business Innovators, Butterflies of Wisdom, always like it, share it, subscribe to it, and talk to us, the show hosts, because we really do pay attention and we like to know what our listeners are interested in so that we can provide the very best shows possible. And again, thank you so much for participating in Women Innovators projects. And I know that you're going to be part of the Women Innovators family for a long time to come, so I really appreciate that. And go have a good workout. And again, I really, really want to thank you for educating us about CP.
And I will definitely share your books with my fan base when the Women Innovators books come out. And again, it's the same with self-published books, you guys. If you like the books we're all writing, please share it with your fan base. I don't care if you're able-bodied or disabled. We all need to get our voices out there, and that's how we're going to do it.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Wynn.
Thank you.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tammy Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.